The basement light flickers on, and there it is, pressed into the corner where the concrete meets the floor joist. A small round body balanced on 8 legs, so thin they look drawn with a mechanical pencil. It does not scurry. It does not lunge. It just stands there, swaying slightly on legs that seem too long for anything to control, watching you from a set of eyes you cannot quite locate. Every instinct says spider, and every half-remembered story from childhood says the worst kind, the kind that is supposedly too venomous to touch and too weak to bite. Stop. Before your shoe gets anywhere near that corner, put the fear down for 1 second, because almost everything you were told about this creature is wrong, and the mistake starts with what you are calling it. By the end of today, you will know why entomologists count this basement visitor among the oldest land animals still walking the earth, why the venom story has an origin nobody bothered to trace, and why getting rid of it does more damage to your basement than leaving it exactly where it stands. Here is where the myth falls apart. The name Daddy Longlegs gets handed to 3 completely unrelated animals, and almost nobody sorts out which one they are actually looking at. There is the cellar spider, a true spider with a 2-part body and functioning venom, though far too mild to trouble a human. There is the crane fly, a harmless flying insect with no mouthparts, capable of biting anything at all. And there is the creature swaying in your basement corner, a member of the arachnid order Opiliones, commonly called a harvestman. Unlike the cellar spider, it has a single fused body with no separation between the front half and back half, which is the fastest way to tell it apart from a true spider on sight. It also has no venom glands whatsoever, not weak venom, not off-target venom, none. Its mouthparts cannot break human skin even if it wanted to, and no documented case exists of it trying. The famous claim, the most venomous creature alive with fangs too short to use that venom, was never a fact about any single animal. It was 3 separate cases of mistaken identity stacked into one story and repeated by enough people that it started to sound like biology. The order Opiliones alone contains more than 6,600 documented species worldwide, with researchers estimating the true number may exceed 10,000, and every single one of them shares the same trait that ends the myth for good. Not one produces venom at all. Now let's move to what this basement visitor is actually doing while you decide whether to spare it. Harvestmen fossils have turned up in the 400-million-year-old Rhynie chert of Scotland, rock laid down in the Devonian period, long before insects had wings and long before the first trees existed on land. The body plan preserved in that stone looks almost identical to the one standing in your corner tonight. Researchers examining these fossils have even found preserved evidence of internal reproductive structures, meaning this lineage was already transferring genetic material through internal fertilization roughly 400 million years ago, making it one of the earliest land animals on record to do so. Whatever is swaying on your basement wall right now has been running the same basic body design since before amphibians existed. That design does 2 jobs at once. Harvestmen hunt live prey, aphids, mites, small soft-bodied insects, and they also scavenge decaying plant matter, fungi, and dead animal tissue, breaking it down and returning the nutrients to the soil. Researchers studying agricultural fields have documented harvestmen preying on the eggs and larvae of crop pests, such as armyworms, in numbers high enough to meaningfully suppress those populations, while the same individual will just as readily clean up a dead insect it happens to find along the way. Entomologists tracking soybean fields have specifically recorded the species Phalangium opilio consuming large numbers of the soybean aphid Aphis glycines during outbreak years, and listed as a documented natural enemy of the corn earworm Helicoverpa zea, one of the costlier pests in American row crop agriculture. Few creatures sharing your yard or your basement pull double duty as both predator and decomposer. When something grabs one of those long legs, the harvestman drops it on purpose and runs, a defense called autotomy. Field surveys of wild harvestman populations have found that between 33 and 58% of individuals sampled were already missing at least one leg, a number that shows how often this trade actually gets made. Here is the part most people never hear. The leg does not grow back, not on the next molt, not ever, unlike the regenerating limbs of many lizards and even some spiders. And yet researchers who experimentally removed legs from harvestmen in the genus Prionostema found that within roughly 2 days, the animals had recovered their full walking speed, having reorganized how the remaining legs move to compensate for a loss that will never be repaired. That kind of built-in recovery, achieved through pure gait recalibration rather than regrowth, is now studied by robotics engineers designing legged machines that need to keep functioning after losing a limb in the field. because teaching a control system to adapt is far easier than building a leg that grows back. There is a second layer of defense working underneath all of that. Large glands near the front of a harvestman's body produce a pungent chemical secretion sprayed directly at anything that grabs it. Chemists analyzing this secretion across different harvestman species have identified compounds including benzoquinones and naphthoquinones, substances with documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Researchers studying this chemistry believe the spray is doing double duty, repelling predators in the moment while also coating the animal's own body in a compound that suppresses bacteria and fungal growth on contact, functioning as a kind of built-in antiseptic that arachnologists have been characterizing compound by compound for decades. So what should you actually do about the one in your basement? Leave it alone. It cannot harm you, your pets, or your food, and it is quietly working through decaying material and small pests you would otherwise never notice. If you find dozens clustered together in a tight, writhing ball, usually in autumn against a wall or beam, that is a documented aggregation behavior for warmth and mutual protection, not an infestation. And it will disperse on its own within a few weeks without any intervention. If you would still rather they not gather in that particular corner, the real fix is almost never the harvestman itself. It is the moisture drawing it there. Harvestmen need humidity to survive, so a dehumidifier or a sealed foundation crack will move them along far more effectively than any spray, and it solves the actual problem instead of just removing the symptom standing in front of you. What is swaying in that corner tonight is not a failed spider carrying a reputation it never earned. It is a 400-million-year-old design that hunts, scavenges, medicates its own exoskeleton, and gets back on its feet within 2 days of losing a leg for good. Have you ever found one of these balanced in a basement corner? And did you know right away what you were actually looking at? Tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one, and this is exactly the kind of story this community was built for. If you want to meet a network of workers that has been passing messages back and forth underground without a single sound long before either of us existed, the next video is already waiting for you. This is 6 Legs Deep. I'll see you in the next one.